Cowboys have interest in and are expected to interview Robert Saleh.
There's been reports now that he's getting an interview more than just expected.
Why do you have to correct me?
Because I'm keep up daily show minute by minute.
You know what? You're forgiven. You can be on your phone if you're going to have more up-to-date information.
That's what I'm saying. He's ready.
Minute by minute news. But I like it. I mean, I talked yesterday in the Deion stuff. They had a phone call. I said, it's not serious until we get interviewed. The phone call, what's the phone call? I talk to Joe all the time. I talk to you all the time. Certainly he's going to talk to people on the phone. That means nothing.
But you don't have to interview me to know you want me to have the job. Jerry doesn't have to interview Deion. He'd just be like, come on in.
Yeah, no.
I got you.
If it's serious, you're going to come and do some interviews. And they need to do the interviews. And so I was waiting for the interview portion to get started, for this coaching search to really take off. And I like Robert Saleh. I like what he brings. I like him as a defense coordinator. I like the discipline he could potentially bring. I like the idea they're interviewing him.
I've been on the Robert Saleh for Cowboys coach hype now for about a week now. And I think the big reason for me is if you look back at what Robert Saleh had to deal with, there are similarities between the Cowboys and the Jets. There is a owner who is very hands-on. There is a lot of media attention. The one difference, perhaps, is quarterback play. The Cowboys have the highest-paid quarterback in the NFL. The Jets were on a search that went through Zach Wilson, eventually Aaron Rodgers, who blew out his Achilles in the second play of the first game there. I don't think Robert Saleh got a fair shake in New York, and I think here he potentially could.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers was a quarterback who tried to undermine him.
100%. The reason he got fired.
Here. Yeah.
And you say all that, it makes me think, like, Robert Saleh went through that. He thinks he want to go through that again?
I think he might look at this one and be like, man, it might even be better.
Yeah, I like the option. I think for an option as your head coach. But I do have to ask the question. We know that we live in a day and time now where the mockery is blatantly shown throughout the league. It was a rule that was put in place a while ago to give minority candidates an opportunity to truly and fairly have a shot at potentially a head coaching job, getting in the room to be able to show the GM, the owner, the president, or whoever it may be that they're worthy of these jobs. And so I do still have to ask the question for this process, is this a true interview and interest in Robert Saleh, or is this as another Rooney Rule candidate? And this
Marvin
is a guy
Lewis
that
move.
they're just bringing in to kind of see and fulfill that rule. And then on the second part of that, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun on anybody, is this a conversation that we had the other day, with picking the new staff? If we're talking about maybe it's going to be Kellen Moore, is this Jerry's way of putting his own staff together that Kellen Moore will have to accept and saying, hey, I'm calling it a head coaching interview. It is fulfilling the head coaching vacancy interview thing. It's fulfilling the Rooney Rule obligations. But is this going to be where Jerry goes, I really just want to get in and talk to you about defense because I want you to be my DC?
Let me address that first.
Yeah, go ahead.
The first part. Unlike the Marvin Lewis interview and unlike what the Patriots did with Pep Hamilton, guys who really had no shot at getting the job, this guy's a legitimate head coaching candidate. Now, we don't know, we can only trust what's in Jerry's heart and with any owner's heart and when they go into these interviews, but this is a legitimate head coaching candidate for other teams. He's interviewing with Jacksonville yesterday. He's going to interview with the Raiders. He was a head coach with the Jets this past season. So unlike those mockeries that they made up with the Pep Hamiltons and what Jerry did with Marvin Lewis, at least this is a legitimate candidate. And that's all you can go with. I mean, you got to trust that these owners are going to uphold and stick to the spirit of the Rooney Rule, but you don't know what's in their heart. But at least he's a legitimate candidate.
And it's a candidate that I love, and I'll take it to the chat where it's like Saleh did such a great job on the Jets. I think that he did a fine job with the Jets. His record's not any good. He never had a quarterback. He never had a good offense. And if you just want head coaches to always be offensive coaches, I think that there are people who exist in that world. But what I think you're going to get with Robert Saleh is what he did with the New York Jets, which was he's a defensive head coach that from the day he got there to the day he was fired, they were top 5 all the time. Mm-hmm. Always. The day he got fired, they sucked at defense the rest of the season. Robert Saleh is a beast, and I think he is an adult that can lead people. And before he was the Jets head coach, he was the defensive coordinator of the 49ers. The 49ers offense is Kyle Shanahan's offense, which means he's got friends. And knowing friends of Shanahan is important to me. Robert Saleh could come in here and run your defense. It would be a good defense. He could lead men, and he has friends who know Shanahan. It works on every level for
Hell,
me.
he can help the Cowboys try to stop the Shanahan offense, which they haven't been able to do in the last couple of years.
You know what's crazy? I mean, you were talking about how they did on defense.
Better
Be crazy. Offensively, you know what the best offense they had in terms of scoring was in the 4 years Robert Saleh was there?
Not good. Probably
25th.
Yeah, hell
if you
yeah.
have the 25th, that's your best offense in 4 years is 25th. So conversely, though, Robert Saleh, when he did go to New York, he did hire a Shanahan guy to be his OC. It didn't really work.
Well, Zach Wilson was farting and falling down.
100%, but it didn't get there, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's part of the Robert Saleh thing. If you're going to go out and get Robert Saleh, you better also get an offensive guy who's ready to roll with Dak Prescott. One thing I'll say, though, on Monday, when I was just talking to a couple people, the first name I heard of potential interest was Robert Saleh. So this is a legitimate candidate.
Yeah. And to go back to the legit candidate thing, there's no way for me to know. This is just what my brain is intuitively telling me, and that is a word. Anytime I use a word that has more than 2 syllables, they look at me like,
we trust.
What was the word yesterday?
Yeah.
We trust intuitive.
Oh, yesterday was when Jesse was gesticulating.
Gesticulating. That's like a doctor word.
And they didn't think it was a word.
That sounds like a George Bush word where he made it up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Fool me once.
Shame on.
Don't fool me again.
Yeah.
Can't fool me again. Is I feel like I know if you're doing a Rooney Rule hire or interview as soon as I see the name. Like when the Patriots are bringing in Pep Hamilton and Byron Leftwich, my brain goes, they ain't getting the job. They're just knocking out the rule.
Right.
You say the name Robert Saleh, and
I'm
like, that's a dude.
Right.
And hopefully I would like to think that his people, like agent and whatnot, are able to feel out the difference between, are we coming in here to interview for the head coaching job, or are you kind of knocking that, not that you're going to say it out loud to him, that no, absolutely. But I'd like to think you could get a feel for that, and I'd like to think that he is too accomplished, despite his win-loss record as a head coach, that he is too respected and accomplished that would be what's happening, or at least I hope so. I think Robert Saleh is a great candidate, and if that ended up being the Cowboys head coach, I would be way happier and way more excited than I expected to be with whoever they're going to hire.
Yeah, I wouldn't be upset with the hire, right? I wouldn't. I would champion it. I would get behind it if Robert Saleh was the head coach. And to Andrew's point in the super chat, he says Saleh's pants are tight and the ankles are showing. He is very creative on the defensive side of the ball. That part we all agree that he is that. We'll have great status for him to run before the game at AT&T. Won't have to worry about the weather. But you are going to have to find an offensive coordinator, a good one, because he will cover the bases of. They'll be disciplined.
Yep.
They'll have a level of nastiness. They'll have that leader of men. They'll have some discipline, right? But to both of your points, the offensive part,
right?
And for me, when you talked about having a coach that's just offensive minded, that's me.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people.
I fall in that group of people who only want offensive minded coaches because this is an offensive driven league. Most of your money is spent on the offensive side of the ball. And if you're talking about the Cowboys, a lot of your money, the bulk of your salary cap is spent on the offensive side of the ball. So I do want that to be a side that is, and it's enjoyable to watch. Nobody wants to watch a 10, 12, 13 football game.
Well, just not with my team. When Ravens Steelers used to go that way, that was fun. But not my team.
First of all, you want to win.
I want to score.
You want to win.
Oh, but I want to win. Yeah,
you want to win.
But I don't want every game to be a slug, 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
If it gets you to the Super Bowl, let's.
We're younger than you. We want to enjoy watching.
I got to cover this stuff every week. I don't want to sit there and watch a boring game every week.
Let's go here. The first rule is who's going to get you to the Super Bowl. If that's Robert Saleh in a 10-7 game, count me in. I'd rather have Robert.
That ain't sustainable. That ain't sustainable. That ain't sustainable in today's football.
That's not.
You ain't holding Pat. And
the point is this. I'm more excited
Josh.
about Robert Saleh than Kellen Moore.
Yes. Same.
Okay?
No argument.
So we're talking about an offensive guy who everybody thinks, well, they're going to talk to Kellen Moore. He got a relationship with Dak. He's an offensive guy. I'd rather have Robert Saleh.
And I don't actually dislike Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator. I know a lot of people do, but I mean, I don't think you can. I just don't think you can trick up results that much. Like Kellen Moore's Cowboys with Dak Prescott as the quarterback is a top 3 offense and always was. So like we can bitch about curl routes, and there's a lot of curl routes, but at the end of the day, when Dak and Kellen Moore worked together, they put up yards, they put up points, and they did it at the top of the league.
Yeah, but we can go back and look at that tenure with those guys together, and you could, visually see there's moments in games where Kellen Moore has no clue what to call. And the play calling is just absolutely absurd, and it cost them games. It cost them a lot of games because you just like...
They kept winning 12.
Look at the points he scored in the 2 playoff games against the 49ers.
Yeah, and that would be a great reason not to hire Dan Quinn. Like, look what he did against the Packers. He had the worst defense ever. But does that mean that people think he sucks at coaching defense? No.
Well, Dan Quinn has a longer track record because of he still has some Seattle in him. He still as a head coach, took the Atlanta to the Super Bowl.
Which means he's a choker. Should have won that.
I'm just saying he has a longer track record that you're
tearing
going to
people
deal
down.
with. And what he had to turn around here in Dallas.
You're just defending your point of liking Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore, I don't want Kellen Moore as my head coach because I facially profile head coaches.
So what's the facial profile of Saleh?
Oh, that's a head coach.
That's a dude.
Robert Saleh is a head coach.
He's a dude.
Kellen Moore is an OC at best.
Yes.
Facially profiling him, he's an assistant QB coach. And so the fact that he does well as an OC, he's overachieving.
Facts.
Robert Saleh,
Facts.
that's a head coach.
Facts.
Yep.
It's right there in his face.
We all silly like the mayor.